Hello and welcome to the Bell Tower on 34th's Legal Jargon Explained video. If you're planning to hold a wedding or event at our venue, you're going to hear a lot of references to your contract with us, which we also refer to as the client agreement. This important document is loaded with critical details about your event, and frankly, it has its fair share of legalese too. This video covers some of your key elements in your client agreement in simple layman's terms. If you're not one of our clients yet, this video may give you a clearer understanding of what you can expect if you decide to work with us. You can find all of the topics covered in this video on our website at thebelltoweron34th.com/terms. The first item you'll see on our contract terms page is under the header of Client Offer Agreement. This section refers to the time when you've decided that you want to hold an event at the Bell Tower on 34th, and we've given you a personalized client agreement to sign. Once that happens, it's not a good idea to put off signing the agreement or giving us your event deposit. That's because offers are only good for 72 hours. After that, you're back to square one. That point ties in directly with the next section of contract terms: deposits, payments, and cancellations. The Bell Tower on 34th does not hold event dates without both a deposit and a signed contract. One is not valid without the other. The deposit will be 25% of your total event cost. You can make your deposit in person or online. Depending on what time it is when you make your deposit online, there could be a delay for date verification and processing. That usually happens when more than one person makes their deposit overnight. We just need to make sure we don't double book. Whenever more than one person requests the same day and time, dates are held on a first-come, first-served basis. Also, sometimes clients make deposits with their credit card, only to find their credit card company delayed the payment because of daily spending limits or because the payment was flagged as an unusual transaction. We encourage you to contact your credit card company to make sure we receive your payment on a timely basis. Your client agreement also has information about sales tax, which is 8.25% of your total event charges. If you represent a nonprofit organization, be sure to submit a copy of your 501c3 tax exemption certificate when you return your signed contract so the sales tax can be deleted from your total. Another point about deposits, and all payments really, they're non-refundable. But as your client agreement says, you do have a one-time option of rescheduling your event if you choose to cancel and reschedule your event. Your new event date must be within 12 months of your previous event date, and it will be subject to availability. You'll have to select the new date before you make the cancellation official. It's possible that we'll have made seasonal price adjustments or create new policies that will impact your newly scheduled event. Those changes will be specified in your updated contract, and the money you've paid will be applied to the new event balance. This option is available for up to 120 days after you've signed your contract. After that, transfers will not be permitted. Let's look at what the contract says about payments. After you've made your deposit, you'll need to pay 50% of your remaining balance 90 days before your event. Then, the last of your balance will be due 30 days before your event. When you make that 30-day payment, you'll also need to give us your final guest count. A quick word about that. Once your event is 30 days away, you won't be able to lower your guest count with us. But you will have the option of increasing it and paying us accordingly. So we encourage clients to estimate their guest count on the low side when they reach their 30-day deadline. Back to payments. It's not our responsibility to remind you about payments. That's something you'll need to stay on top of. If you are late, we strictly enforce a $35 per day late fee. Not only that, we lock the client's account when payments are late. That means you won't be able to schedule food tastings, portraits, or a rehearsal, and we won't be provisioning supplies or staff for your events. If the situation remains unresolved, we won't let you or your vendors load equipment and supplies into our venue on the event date. Your account has to be current before you can come in. You'll also want to make sure your check isn't returned. When that happens, we charge a $35 return check fee. And if the check is returned after your payment due date, the late fees and account lock go into effect. What's more, we may determine that you're in material breach of the contract, so your contract could be subject to termination in that case. And you would lose your right to hold your event on the date you reserved. With all of that said, if you realize that a payment is going to be late, and if you discuss it with us in advance, there's a good chance that we'll allow you to move forward with your event on your chosen date once you've paid your balance and late charges. Let's talk about what the agreement says about cancellations and refunds. As I said, we don't give refunds. There is one exception to that policy. When you put down your event deposit, you can ask to sign a 5-day hold addendum to your contract. So, say you want to book an event at our venue, but you haven't been able to confirm the date with your company president. Pay your deposit, sign your event agreement, and the 5-day hold addendum. Then, if you realize the date you selected won't work, you can get your money back for up to 5 days. Let's look at what your client agreement says about food tastings. A tasting is just what it sounds like, a chance to sample menu selections before you make your final choices. Tastings should be completed no later than 45 days before the event. The longer you wait to schedule your tasting, the more difficult it becomes for you to find time to do it. Please keep in mind, appointment windows are limited and tastings are not available at all in December. You can easily schedule the tasting online in the Bell Tower Customer Hub. If you are having any problems using the hub, please contact the event producer or our customer service department. Just call the main number. Another important note, once you schedule a tasting, please make every effort to be there or at least not wait until the day of to try to reschedule it. Preparing for a tasting is time-consuming for our staff. So if you don't show up, a $200 charge will be added to your event total. You can find more detailed information about what tastings involve on our contract terms page at thebelltoweron34th.com/terms. Moving on, let's look at the section of your agreement titled Additional Terms. This section addresses your guest count. I told you that while you can't decrease your guest count once we're 30 days out from your event, you can increase the count. If you need to do that, your deadline for giving us the increased total is 2 weeks before your event date. At that point, your payment for additional consumption charges will be due immediately. You'll be able to pay with a credit card, cash, or a cashier's check only. You should know that throughout an event, our staff conducts head counts, just to make sure the number of guests matches the totals provided to the bell tower. Methods for determining if additional guests have arrived include plate counts, guest chair counts, manual guest counts, car counts, and key counts. We typically rely on eyewitnesses and in some cases video to back up our findings. If we realize the number is higher than the count provided, we'll charge you for the additional guests. The point is, ambushing us with unplanned guests is not acceptable. It's not fair to our staff, and it dramatically undermines our ability to deliver excellent events. Now let's look at the topic of alcohol. Please keep in mind that Texas law prohibits outside alcohol in our venue. That law is strictly enforced here. This doesn't mean that the client can't have alcohol at their event. We have bar packages, and if you need something special, tell the event producer before the event. Let's look at the topic of alcohol. Please keep in mind that Texas law prohibits outside alcohol in our venue. That law is strictly enforced here. This doesn't mean the client can't have alcohol at their event. We have bar packages, and if you need something special, tell the event producer in advance. But the law requires that all alcohol at an event is provided and served by the venue. That includes favors, giveaways, and auction items containing alcohol. What's more, no alcohol can leave our premises, and we don't serve shots. For a more detailed look at the policy, please see the contract terms page. You'll also find a section in the client agreement about event timelines. If there's a conflict between the times on your invitation and those in your event contract, the timeline in your contract will prevail. The same rule applies to planners' timelines that conflict with those in the contract. All of our preparations, services, and charges will align with the timeline in the contract. Let's move on to vendors, those who provide products and services for weddings and events. We require vendors working here to provide us with a certificate of liability naming the bell tower and Keep On Going LLC as additional insured. We need the certificate at least 10 days before the event. We realize that some people would rather ask a friend or a family member to help with their event. The bell tower policies for vendors apply to them too. That said, we also know that since most of our clients' friends and family don't make their living providing goods or services for events, that they probably won't be able to provide proof of liability insurance. In most cases, we will make an exception to our insurance requirement if you'd rather rely on a friend or family member to help with your event. But you should know you're taking a bit of a risk. If something goes wrong at the event, if an uninsured vendor is responsible for someone or something being harmed, then you will be financially responsible, not the bell tower on 34th. You can find more details about our vendor policies on our contracts terms page. Let's move on to force majeure. Circumstances beyond our control that force an event to be canceled. Sometimes, no matter how carefully we prepare, life gets in the way of event plans. That's why we strongly encourage you to get postponement and cancellation insurance as soon as you commit to your event. This insurance protects you from financial loss if weather or an emergency interferes with your big day. Why is this so important? As I've said, the bell tower on 34th does not provide refunds under any circumstances. So if something happens to force you to postpone or cancel your event, insurance is your only means of restoring the money you've paid up to that point. We believe so strongly in the value of postponement and cancellation insurance, we've created a program to make it affordable for you. Here's how it works. After you purchase your insurance and show us your receipt and policy number, we'll credit your master account with us for the full cost of the premium up to $400. So you pay very little, and signing up almost always is a quick, simple process that can be done online. Honestly, I can't think of one good reason for you not to purchase it. I'd like to take a moment to explain our single point of contact rule. Basically, it calls for one and only one person to interact with the bell tower on 34th through the end of an event. This is the only person who can convey the client's decision about their event to the bell tower on 34th. And this is the only person who can make changes to the event contract. This rule protects the interests of the client, and we take it very seriously. You can find more details about this policy at thebelltoweron34th.com/terms. You are watching the Bell Tower on 34th legal jargon video. As I mentioned, this is meant to clarify some of the topics covered in your contract. The terms and policies covered here do not encompass everything in your contract. Please take the time to read it thoroughly and feel free to contact your event producer if you have any questions.